that time, July the 15th.
Okay.
I'll be on vacation, but I can always come back if I miss it. I'll be able to be.
Andrew said,
Done for that one?
Good evening, everybody. We're gonna start the meeting here at 7 o'clock, or thereabouts. I don't believe we have any administrative items to handle before we ask for our first presenter to get going.
Well, minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Earl, you're right. I apologize.
I'll move the minutes as presented.
I do have a correction.
Oh, good.
Okay, Earl?
On page 5, the first line of the second paragraph, where it says there's still 1 million if you take out the ambulance. After 1 million, I think the word needed ought to be put in.
Where is that, Earl?
Wait a minute, what is the, can you explain the context of that statement, Earl?
Sure. I commented about that we had 106,000 left over in the fire apparatus reserve, and looking at the request from the chief,
Okay,
if we take out the cost of the ambulance, which is offsetting revenue, there's still $1 million needed to do what he wants to do.
Or in requests?
for the two requests that he was making.
Right.
500 and 550 combined.
Correct. So the word needed ought to go in there, because
Right after needed.
because if you read it, you might think that, first I'm saying there's 106,000 left in the capital reserve fund, and then there's a million left in the capital reserve fund, which is not the case. There's $1 million needed to meet the chief's requests.
Okay, so it's duly noted.
Why are you taking the ambulance out of the capital reserve
We're
fund?
not taking the ambulance out of the capital reserve.
That's what
the
it sounds
ambulance-
like, though. I know, the
No, the-
ambulance is a special fund.
Yeah, the ambulance is taken out via the ambulance fund.
We have slightly over 106,000 left in the fire apparatus reserve. There is still,
1 million needed
Million needed.
if you take out the ambulance.
Well, it's, you're mixing facts and statements. The ambulance is not considered part of the fire apparatus service fund.
Except for the fact that when you look at the matrix, if you don't consider the offsetting revenue, the fire department vehicle replacement matrix shows an ambulance cost in there.
Okay. Well,
okay.
if you really wanted to straighten the whole statement out so that everybody would understand it, Earl, maybe you should amend it so that you remove
Okay.
the words if you take out the ambulance. Because it's not, it doesn't,
All right.
it's not factual to the
Should be a
to the
note on the
statement.
matrix saying the ambulance comes with.
Yeah, all
I
right.
think there is a note in the matrix. It
Yes,
says
there
there that in the memo column, you'll see
Right.
in the ambulance that it's always offsetting revenue.
There usually is. I
It's
know,
there,
okay.
I've seen it. So,
All right, fine. Well, leaving the word, add the word needed and then,
Period.
period, and then take out, if you take out the ambulance, delete that.
I think that clears it up for everybody's.
Makes me
Satisfaction.
ecstatic.
Anybody else have any other, corrections for the minutes? Okay, Suzanne made a motion to accept them, with the
As
correction, I assume, as corrected?
Yep.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
Sure.
Seconded by Earl. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
I can understand.
Hank is abstaining.
And Bill,
Bill is abstaining.
I missed the discussion.
Chair votes yes. Okay. All right, anything else that I've overlooked, Earl? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Brian. Yes, Brian, please.
I just wanted to give a brief explanation of the handouts that were there for some of us who just walked in. There's a copy of the meeting minutes, which we just went over, and then you have also the school worksheets that were given, and they had a later deadline, so they were allowed to submit those later.
Right.
And so those will be updated in the matrix by the next meeting, and
Thank
so
you.
I'll have those to give to you. And also, just as a point of information, last meeting you had requested the mileage for all the vehicles. All the departments have submitted those to me, and within the next couple of weeks I I will be inputting all of that information into the matrix as well, so you'll have that for
Perfect.
the next time we
Great.
meet.
That's good.
So,
Okay.
that's it.
I noticed Kath has moved up to the head table. Are we doing you first or something?
Yeah, we only take like 15 minutes, so.
Carl, is that all right with you? Okay. So we're gonna change the schedule tonight. The first group to be heard from will be the Sewer Commission. I'd like to note that Catherine Hooton, Sewer Commissioner, is here tonight, and Ellen Noyes is the Secretary for the Sewer Department. Would you please begin?
Sure,
Catherine?
good evening. Thank you for inviting us to your capital improvements workshop, meeting. We are a sewer commission which is funded by grants, by user fees, and by assessments. We maintain a separate enterprise fund, and all of our projects are paid independently from taxpayer dollars. Presently, we have 5 CIP projects that we have on the table, and we are presenting. The first one, of course, is the Mass Road Sewer Upgrade Project, which has started as of June 1st. Right now, they have mobilization this week. Construction will begin next week. The plan is for them, this is a $2.5 million project, of which $1.25 million will be paid through the Sewer Enterprise Fund. The other 1.25 was matched with the stimulus money from the Obama administration. This project funding will, for us to begin to repay it, will begin 1 year after the completion of the project. And that funding will be financed through the revolving loan account at the state. And we have an interest rate of 2.744, approximately 2.7%, and the cost is going to be approximately $89,908.47 per year that we will be funding it at. We are very comfortable with that figure. We feel that it is within our budget at this time. We also presented at the public hearing that if we were to experience any additional cost to our users, it would not exceed, we do not anticipate 10% for our users' fees, which approximately comes to maybe $40 a year additional for user fees. But at this time, we're not looking to do that. We're looking to stay within our budget to do it. So, presently, Cordia and Sons are looking at doing phase 1 and 3. Their timeline goes into approximately the 1st of August. We're hoping to get phase 2 done by November 15th, which means if that does happen, then the initial payment will start in December of 2011. So there is no CIP monies that we are looking to expense through the Sewer Commission on this particular project until the end of next year. The second project that we have is slated for 2011. We are presently working on that. That is for the Manchester wastewater treatment plant upgrade and capacity. Over the past year, the sewer commissioners voted not to increase capacity, purchase additional capacity for future needs, because we presently only use 50% of the capacity that we have purchased, and because they changed the way that they charge us for capacity usage when we use over the amount on a daily basis, like in floods and situations like that. They used to look at it on a daily basis versus averaging over the year. Because they have now changed that to average over the year, we don't need to purchase additional capacity to keep our costs lower. So we are not purchasing any additional capacity at this time.
May I interrupt you for a second,
Sure.
Catherine? Brian, could you note on the matrix on page 4 that 2010, there's a payment in there for $116,000, and Catherine says they are not making any payment in 2010, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it won't begin in
2010 for,
the Manchester wastewater treatment plant upgrade?
we are,
Or are you
well,
making a payment to get going on it?
we are waiting for the Manchester wastewater treatment plant to give us the, we're
Page
waiting,
4 of the matrix?
we're still waiting to hear from the Manchester wastewater treatment plant as to exactly,
The one that's dated
The next
September the 10th?
What line number are you looking at?
Line number 227.
Oh, that one.
Okay, September the 10th.
Are you looking on the older matrix?
I got the second one, September the 10th. The one in front of it is,
You printed May 4th.
that's,
You got 2009 though.
no, I do
how
believe
do I
there
have
is
a
a line there.
2009 matrix in my,
2009, and I've got,
excuse me, then why do I have one in my, even in the folder here?
Mr. Chair, we included the last year's matrix just for you to have as a comparison for.
Thank you.
um,
Now
looking
I know
at-
why.
okay, that being the case, then, maybe I'm even more confused
Now I'm,
than normal, but in looking at page 5
Yeah.
of
I'm on the
the
wrong.
May 20th, 2010 matrix,
okay. Now I'm on the right matrix, thank you.
I don't see anything there with regard to the Mast Road project and the bond payments.
You're correct.
Not till next year.
Well, I understand that, but should we not have a line on there to
I think we should.
Yes,
show
there,
these things?
yes, there should be.
Not even here at all.
Yeah.
Well,
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, that's, I think, probably a mistake that I tried getting some information from Ellen and trying to figure out how to best portray the information to you guys. And since I had seen the note on that worksheet that said that the project was underway, and that all the funding had been appropriated, I had assumed that that was not needed to be on there, but we can put that back on there so that we make sure that we have the right amounts.
Catherine, do you have a few minutes to just talk to Brian at some point and make sure he understands where the, or Ellen, where the wastewater treatment capacity upgrade lines need to be filled in and what year they're gonna start?
I think that we'd be more than willing to work with Brian so that by the next time you have a CIP meeting, that this whole section of the sewer commission CIP lines would be more appropriately represented.
Thank you. Continue, please.
The question I think that was on the table was about whether or not we were gonna need any CIP funding for the year 2010. And as far as the Manchester wastewater treatment plant is concerned, it is very possible that there may be additional funding that we need going forward this year, but we are still waiting to hear the finalization from Manchester wastewater treatment plant as to what the phasings are going to be, and therefore, once we know that, we will know what our financial responsibilities will be this year and the years coming forward. So that is why, at the present time, there's nothing written in stone as to what it's going to be. We're anticipating there's going to be some funding, but we're really not quite sure at this point. This is going to be a $4.2 million project. It's going to, and it's going to be phased based upon what upgrades are going to be done at what times, and therefore we will know more when we hear that phasing, how we can appropriately put it onto the CIP. And hopefully we'll have more information that we can supply to you for the next meeting. And we will continue to work with Brian to update the CIP report so it can reflect more appropriately what the expenditures are going to be over a long-term projection.
Question.
Yes.
ahead.
What class have you got this down as, urgent, necessary? You have nothing in here.
Well, this is necessary. This is nothing that we cannot do. It is part of the Manchester wastewater treatment plant, which, of course, our lines interconnect to, and we have to be a part of this, so it is necessary. Urgent, I wouldn't say.
I don't know that we need to classify them because they are enterprise fund. They collect their own fees and they expend the money as they see fit. So I think that classification is unnecessary.
Although she did say that there was the potential for the need for some CIP money.
That's the capital improvement monies that come, to, offset any expenditures or costs to the sewer commission are strictly come from the enterprise fund, which is separate from any taxpayer dollar funds. We have two separate, you're talking, two separate entities here. The town collects taxpayer dollars for town expenses, and the sewer commission collects user fees, assessments, and grant dollars to offset expenditures that are for sewer.
I just got the bill.
So there is no tax liability to any taxpayer.
Okay, thank you.
The next three projects are bondable projects. The first one is the Hermsdorf wastewater service area. That's projected for 2013. That has been a moving project for the past at least over 10 years. What needs to be done here is letters need to go to the residents to see if in fact 2/3 of the residents are in favor of this project going forward. If we do not have 2/3 of a majority of the Hermsdorf area, then this project does not go forward. This is a bonded project, and therefore it needs 2/3 of a vote in order for the bonding to take place. Very similar to anything that is going on down in the Lynchville Park, Danisville Park area. Very similar to what was the Knollcrest and the Moose Club Park areas. They need 2/3 of a majority of the residents in order to go forward with any project.
So Hermsdorf would have to require a pump station then to pump to the village, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, there's no way that would be able to gravity that distance. I don't believe it could.
Excuse me?
I don't believe it can. I don't think
I think
topographic.
I think in the plans, I know in the plans, there's a pump station that is part of it.
Okay.
The schedule for 2014 is the Shirley Park wastewater service area. Again, it is a similar situation as to the Hermsdorf area. It's a bonded project. It needs 2/3 of the Shirley Park residents. And to say that it is written in stone that these projects are going to go forward, we cannot say because we do not have that 2/3 majority at this point. And until we know for sure that the residents of the area want it, we put it out there as a project we're looking at doing, but it is strictly a bonded one and needs those votes, the residential approval to be done.
Kathy,
Yes,
is that 2/3 because of the bonding issue, or
yes,
is that a legal requirement?
yes. And the final one is the $5,191,000 project, which is the Lynchville-Danisville Park system. The reason this has been put off till 2015, we had originally gone down into the area. We had canvassed the area to see if in fact they did want the sewer down there at that time. The response was not 2/3, so therefore the sewer did not go in prior to this, even though there were many people that were very vocal about wanting it, and there were just as many people that were vocal who did not want it, and actually there were more that said that they did not want it. Therefore, we put it out to 2015, and we will see once again, in the process of bonding, whether or not they have changed their minds and they would like to have sewer down in the Lynchville Park, Danisville Park area. I think that as far as the CIP, reporting on the matrix, I think it's correct in reporting the last three projects, which are bondable projects, as a total amount, because of the uncertainty as to whether or not the projects are going through. So I believe as they're recorded right now on the particular years as the total amounts, it just shows that the projects are there and represented accordingly. But until such time as we know that they are going to be bonded and they are going to go forward, it would be, I think, fruitless for us to spread them out and do that type of assumptions on percentages and loan amounts and how we're gonna put them out. I think, just like I said, putting the total amount under the years just shows where it's designated to be. I do feel that the ARA one should be spread out and reported to you more correctly. And again, we will keep in touch with you as far as the Manchester wastewater treatment plant one is concerned.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Catherine Hooton? Everybody happy? Thank you, Catherine, for your presentation.
And thank you very much for letting me go first. I really do appreciate it.
Thank Carl.
Have a nice evening. And Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay. Our next department is the Public Works Department. Our Public Works Director, Carl Quorum, is here to make a presentation. The floor is yours, Carl.
Just, I'm sure all you know Megan, our town engineer, but she's joining me tonight to correct all the mistakes I made. Couple of just brief comments before I start. We had a couple of issues this year with projects and the budget being somewhat outdated. So this year, we really tried to go through the matrix. So as you look at your matrix, if you compare it to last year, you'll see a lot of the projects, even projects that have been in the matrix for a while, the numbers have been updated. It's not that the scope of the projects necessarily changed, we just really tried to give realistic, up-to-date estimates for everything that we had in here. The other thing that we did this year, and you'll see that a lot of the projects that are tied to road reconstruction, things like bridges or sidewalks that we would typically do when the road is redone as part of the road plan, a lot of those shifted from one year to another. This year, we had, due to budget constraints, we had a road plan cut. We also had changes in what the road plan funded. The roundabout out at Wallace Road's coming out of the road plan. All totaled, it was about a $900,000 change to the bottom line of the road plan. So a lot of the roads in the road plan had to be adjusted, moved around, which happens year after year anyway, but it was pretty dramatic this year. So you'll see a lot of the projects that we're not really gonna talk about tonight, because as we discussed before the camera started rolling, we're gonna really talk about new projects for next year and things that, are major changes. You may see that those shifted one year to the other, and that's what that is all about. It's kind of realigning them with the changes in the road plan. One other comment is the cemetery trustees. One project we're gonna talk about tonight is the expansion of the West Lawn Cemetery. That's a project that has been carried for a while in CIP, but you're gonna see a much larger number than what you saw carried in CIP. The cemetery trustees very much are interested in coming and just voicing support for that project and answering any questions you have. I'm more or less the messenger tonight, but none of them could be here tonight because they had conflicts with other meetings. So they'll probably get a hold of Brian and try to show up at one of their later meetings just to take 2 minutes to give you their 2 cents on that West Lawn expansion. So with that, Mr. Chairman, unless you want to
No, that's fine. I think you're ready to get started.
The first thing to talk about is the vehicle matrix, and what I want to talk to you about, and I brought just a few pictures, which I'll kind of show, if I can figure out how to think this thing. Oops, move. As you probably all know, because you attended town meeting, we had a couple of major pieces of equipment that we put in as part of a lease purchase deal on the ballot, and it didn't pass. What that created, that plus other changes over the years, I always refer to it as a snowball rolling down the hill. Well, last year it was more than a snowball, it was the entire snowman rolled down the hill when that lease purchase didn't pass. So we were staring at, and if you look at, I included as backup to the vehicle replacement matrix, 2 vehicle matrix. One is proposed revised, which is what we're actually proposing we do. And then there was the original one, which basically just took what didn't pass the town meeting and lumped it into next year and kind of gave you a picture of where we'd be at if we didn't make any changes. Our feeling was that there was no way in this economy, in this budget year, that rolling the big snowball down one more year was gonna go anywhere. So we took a crack at looking at our entire matrix and made some adjustments to the replacement frequency for the vehicles. For instance, dump trucks were on a every 10 years replacement. We stretched them out to 12 years, and we made some changes that flattened out that big spike in next year and allowed us some flexibility to move things around.
So you'd like us to look at the proposed revised?
Proposed revised is what we're actually putting forward. The reason I brought some of these photographs is just to give you a kind of a flavor of, this is the 10-wheeler that we were asking to replace in 2010. That was part of that lease purchase. What you're looking at here is the actual corner of the body that it supports a whole quarter of the truck. And you can see this picture, it's the tailgate in the back of the truck. If you look closely, just above that tail light, there's a crack right up that back of the frame. The entire corner of this truck is actually falling. It's collapsing to the point where where the frame is starting to crack.
Carl, just for,
It's the
I don't know.
10-wheeler replacement.
that's, line 69, asset number 180,
Yes,
the 99 Sterling,
that's correct.
okay.
That's correct. So in our opinion, this is an absolutely critical piece of equipment. I know you folks are gonna go through your own kind of prioritizing, and have to consider shifting things. I really wanted you to have a flavor of what's involved. If we had to keep this truck, as you know, we have two 10-wheelers. They're absolutely critical to not only our winter operation, but they're the first trucks that roll out of the yard every day in the summer as well, because they're the high-capacity dump trucks. It'd be about $40,000 or $45,000 to replace the body on this truck, and we got our fingers crossed that we can limp through another year with it. We're not even sure we'll make it through the year with the condition that the truck is in right now. The rest of these, let me just run through. We're not even gonna talk about the road plan, but I just wanna run through these pictures real quick, because I went through and all the roads that are in the next couple of years, I just wanted to give you a quick flavor of kind of what they look like. And these are, if you drive our main roads in town, you get a sense that, geez, the roads don't look too bad, but if you venture out in the back 40, we still have a lot of roads that aren't in great shape. And this one's actually Pleasant Street or Route 13, but Norman Road, Addison Road. This is a picture of College Road where that sidewalk is proposed. I don't know if you've ever ventured down there, but all the kids coming down from St. A's down into Bernardville walk or jog down this. As you can see, it's very, very narrow. And then we'll talk about these when we get to the Wingwall. Well, actually, we're not even gonna talk about these, so let me just truck through these. When these bridges were done, those wing walls were built out of, at the time, Versalock block was kind of hitting the market as the new good way to build walls. So we incorporated them into a couple of jobs in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. And as you can see, they're really starting to rot. And what you can't see or get a sense of in this picture, and I'd invite you to stroll over to the edge of Henry Bridge and look down, that's about an 18-foot high wall. So it's not just a little wall like the one in front of the funeral home along the sidewalk. This is a very substantial wall, and it's about 4 feet off the edge of pavement, right on Henry Bridge Road. So if that wall decided that it had enough, I dread to think what Henry Bridge Road would look like. And this is the West Union, the head walls on the bridge on West Union. You can see it's in a lot worse state of decay. We have yet to find any way to stabilize or stop this decay other than just straight out replacing those head walls with a different wall system. So those are all the pictures I brought, so we can put that to rest and we'll keep moving along. The other vehicles that we have proposed for 2011 is the old backhoe at the transfer station. You can see it's a 1994. The engine on the current backhoe, the rings are really starting to smoke. The engine has a lot of hours on it. So if we don't replace the backhoe, we're gonna at very minimum have to budget to rebuild the engine in that thing, because it's very tired. And that is a machine. It's not a heavy duty, it's not a hard duty piece of equipment, but it is used daily whenever the transfer station is open. The next one is our backup. When we began our own hauling of recycling and solid waste, We bought a brand-new tractor, and we also bought an old used tractor to serve as a backup. That used backup truck now has, if you look at the updated, it's like 650,000 miles on it. And it's really getting to the point where it needs to be taken out of service. So what we're proposing is to get a new tractor, and the one that we've been using for the last 4 years as the frontline tractor would move to a backup vehicle. And the last thing on the list here is one of our garbage packers. It's a 2000 packer. I do have, if anybody is interested in some photos, I've got a bunch of photos. You can imagine when you see that dump truck. You can just imagine what a truck that's hauling rubbish and trash around all day looks like as compared to when it's hauling gravel and salt around all day. So it's in about the same shape. So other than that, I won't cover out years and vehicles unless you have questions. As I said, we did change the matrix, so after you have a chance to look it over, if you have questions, just get back to me and I'll be happy to answer them.
Carl, what we don't have in our packet at this time is the actual worksheet that prioritizes those vehicles that you've submitted. We did not get those in our packet.
I didn't send that to you, Brian. I will give mine to Brian right now.
The 4 vehicles that are in the 2011 request column,
Yep.
at the very least, if you could do the
I
worksheet
apologize if we
submission
didn't,
form.
if we didn't get that down to you. I thought we had emailed it, but it's right there.
So we can get them at the next meeting, so, because we have to consider the priorities when we do our final deliberations. Thank you.
Any other questions on vehicles before we?
That's the whole program, Mr. Chair. But the individual
Yeah, you
vehicles,
do
we usually
it,
get
no.
an individual form on each vehicle. I'm sorry, Carl.
Question?
Nick?
Carl, on the items that were approved, not approved, but on last year's, the 208 went to 214, 240 went to 247. And is that just an increase in pricing?
Right.
Okay, then on the backhoe and the Freightliner, those costs there are the same as what was on the matrix last year. Those didn't go up in price?
No, Mark did a budget estimate on those, got quotes, budget quotes, and the estimates look fine.
Okay, thank you.
What we were planning.
All right, so, does anybody have any other questions regarding the vehicle matrix before we move on? We can always formulate questions for you and get them to you.
Absolutely.
All right, well, so we finished with the vehicle matrix. In our packet, the next item is the road reclamation program. Did you say you wanted to talk about that or not talk about that?
Well,
this evening?
if you folks want to talk about it, we can. It's, I guess the only thing I'll tell you is I did fund it at what it's supposed to be funded in the original plan, which I do every year, and that usually turns into a bone of contention when we get to the budget committee process, but I go back to what the original road plan number should have been. The only change to it is, last year, the selectmen committed to pay for the bond payment for the South Mass Drainage Project out of road plan money. So you'll see that there's a new line that says South Mass Drainage, and it's 72,000 and change each year. That is subtracted from that road plan budget, for those 5 years. So that's kind of the only change to the road plan. The actual, roads, as I said, have shifted, which caused things like bridges and other things to shift around a little bit as well. But that was just to try to plan our out year's work.
Does anybody have any questions on this topic?
Well, looking at the reclamation listing that Carl's given us, headed CIP reclamation list, it's a matrix-type form. I was in 2011, Carl, you've got Worthley Hill. Is that contingent upon the Viking development, or is it just, well, I mean, obviously I know it's needed because it's a road that I use fairly frequently, but I'm just curious as to whether it's linked into anything else.
It's, honestly, it's it's linked into Viking Orchards only to the degree that they're committed to doing the road from Tyler Drive up. The project we're doing this year with the roundabout, we're doing the very bottom of the hill around Lamson and the intersection. This is the chunk in the middle, from Tyler Drive to where we leave off. That drainage system from Tyler Drive down to the bottom, again, the green drainage is giving us capacity at the bottom of the hill, but the entire hill is just an old 12-inch metal pipe that is completely failed. In heavy rain, water sprays up out of yards and the edge of the road. So it's really a drainage project, and while we're there, we're gonna get the road taken care of, so that when we're done, all of Worthley will be paved.
Any other questions? Okay, Carl?
The next project is that West Lawn Cemetery expansion, and what I gave you for backup is two things.
Carl, can I interrupt you again, please?
Sure, absolutely.
The next thing in our packet is the Mast Road drainage upgrade
Okay.
by our packet. Are you able to bounce around
Yep,
by this?
not a problem. All I'll say about that is, it is not slated for next year. The sewer project down on Mass Road will be under construction both this year and next year. We budgeted a contingency, we probably talked about this last year, but most of the drainage in Mass Road in Pinardville is vintage, it's old aluminum and metal pipe. It is so rotted that you can't even excavate near it. It really just crumbles into the hole. So we expect as the sewer gets replaced over the next 2 summers, a lot of that, the cross pipes will end up getting replaced. The number you have in your packet is our estimate to redo the entire drainage system on Mass Road. Some of it is gonna get done by Cardillo and Sons when they're doing the sewer. We really are gonna be kinda watching as that sewer project progresses, what really needs to be replaced, what doesn't. So I would suspect that next year we'll come in with an adjusted, more detailed plan of what we're gonna do.
So as they open the road up and they find the condition of different segments of the drainage system, you can make adjustments.
Exactly. And as they damage things along the way, we're gonna work with them to try to get pieces of it fixed this year.
You know, you use as they damage things, I think, obviously there's gonna be, from what you said, sections of pipe that it's not gonna be a matter of that they're damaging them, it's just,
Exactly, it just
they got no
can't be
choice.
helped.
Yeah.
There's just no, you get near the stuff, it just crumbles into the ditch, so there's really nothing they can do about it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
for clarification, Carl, you stated that the money is not gonna be needed for next year, for that project?
Correct.
Mass
We
Road drainage
moved it
is
out
out in
to,
2012.
Because your worksheet has it on 2011,
Yeah.
Well, the
so that.
submission
that
form has it on 2012. Am I wrong?
cause we had
Yeah.
slid it
South
out.
Mass,
That's the green drainage, that's different,
Okay.
that's South Mast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Looking at
Mass
South
Road.
Mass.
South Mast is a different project.
We have all kinds of mass roads here, not
Yeah,
just plain old mass.
plain old mast.
Okay, then, is that okay with Brian?
That's
Correct it?
fine,
Okay. The
yes.
next thing is your transfer station generator in 2013, you wanna let that just be,
Yeah,
hang out there for now?
yeah, and that's gonna be grant dependent anyway.
I'm just going through the
Yeah.
papers as they.
This is different.
Is that different order?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
I
time
don't know how the books go.
that's why I ended up with South Mass drainage.
Oh,
Yeah, me too.
You wanna take a crack and see if you're the one that's?
I haven't touched this book. This
Take
is
a vote.
This came to me directly as is.
Yeah, we got South Mass green drainage, then the cemetery,
Yeah.
then Mass Road drainage upgrade, that's what I've got.
Which is
Yeah.
the order that's kinda what I've got.
All right, Carl, then we'll go to your order and I'll find it in my book.
Okay.
So what's your next topic? Go back
My,
to the South Mast?
Yeah, my next one, South Mass, is just the bond payment, so there's really no need to talk about that one. But the next one is the West Lawn Cemetery expansion. And I don't remember what the number was on last year's matrix, but the cemetery, well, the town hired an architectural firm called Griever and Ward, who, I think you got this plan. This is their work product.
Griever, great name for cemetery planners.
But Griever and Ward was hired to maximize the use of that property and worked with the cemetery trustees to develop this plan. And then Griever and Ward worked with Megan and our staff to come up with a budget estimate to actually build this. Now, according to our projections, we feel we have about 2 years, if average burials continue to occur in West Lawn, we have about 2 more years to go out there before we're out of space. So the trustees are proposing that we phase this expansion construction over the next couple of years, so that at the end of those 2 years, this would be open for business. So that is the plan that is funded. The number, as you see, is up. Phase 1 for 2011 is 148,500, and 2012 would be 181,500.
Should be with a fold-out.
I don't have any of the stuff you're even talking about. The green drainage is not in here. I have the foldout for the cemetery, but we're not gonna talk about that because they're coming back, right?
Well, they just wanna come in and
Okay,
voice their support for it.
okay, good. Wow, that is bigger.
They figure, how many grades do you?
Amazing how many can fit when it's properly.
13,
No.
you're gonna bury them this week. 1,300 something.
Well, that's what this is.
Wow.
Crematorium garden or something.
All right,
Any
so
questions
so
on that?
we'll let the cemetery trustees come in.
Just a quick question.
I'm sorry?
In the old matrix in 2011, there was a $75,000 for the cemetery expansion. So, if you could just clarify, what is the expansion? Is that they want to do the entire thing at once?
Well, over 2 years. If you should also have a detailed cost breakdown. It looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
That details that whole total.
What was the plan when it was 75,000?
Well, we really didn't have, I think it was just to put a road in and a fence around it, and we didn't really plan all the detail that's in this plan before you now.
Well, I think the point that you're making, Nick, is that it was really a grossly underestimated amount, if I'm not, am I reading it correctly?
No, I just want a clarification on, from that amount to this, what's the difference? What was the thinking back
Well, we did have a
in
plan.
2009?
We had a plan that showed
Yeah,
a layout. and-
much less detailed than this.
There's, there's a lot of things. If you look at that detailed budget, there's a lot of things that we just never even contemplated, like the lot corner markings, surveying and laying out all of these lot corners. Obviously, that adds up, and you gotta put little pins on every lot corner, and, so all of those things add up. They wanted to do a nice fence in the front and match the cemetery across the street. That's very expensive. So there's a lot of those details that we just never really contemplated in the original estimate, when we were just looking at, kinda like we did on Shirley Hill.
I do have a question though, Carol. What are contingencies? I've heard of contingencies, but not contingencies.
Oh, well.
A spell check.
What was that, Mike?
Spreadsheet spell check.
Question.
Nick,
Carl, what is the lifespan of this plan? In other words, how long will this cemetery plan operate for? We have 2 years left currently.
That's probably something the trustees could tell you right off the top of their head.
I believe they did figure that out though.
1,300 graves.
well, let's not dwell on it.
Well, I guess, and the question would be then has there been given any thought, instead of a 2-year plan, of phasing these in sections over a longer period of time. In other words, developing one portion of the cemetery until that is nearing capacity, and then moving on to another section and, with associated roads and.
Yeah, and obviously that could be done.
Good question.
But there are certain elements of it that have to be done all at once.
Absolutely.
You have to do the
Yes.
fencing, you have to build the roads. You might not do the survey layout on the plots until, as you're needed them, but you're still gonna need to
Yeah, because if you
fence it
do the
and,
graves, you gotta do the crematorium too.
Right.
This section.
and if you looked at that spreadsheet, the amount for the survey part was $27,000 for the whole thing. Okay.
Okay. We already talked about the Mass Road drainage, and we talked about the Worthley Hill, I think, unless somebody has more questions on that. We did give you kind of a detailed estimate of Worthley Hill. Skipping over the transfer station generator.
Well, Carl, you had
What are you on, what topic?
the Worthy Hill drainage. Okay.
Okay. The next one on my list is salt brine, which we don't really need to talk about. It's a 2012 project. I just learned this week that DOT is starting to entertain, they're gonna be getting into a partnership with, I think it's Merrimack, and where they're gonna provide the brine. They're gonna do the mixing and provide the brine to other towns, which sounds very interesting to me, so I need to follow that one up a little more. That would cut down on our capital cost if we could do that. Kendall Valley drainage, we're skipping right by. That's probably never gonna happen. Fair to say, Megan, we applied for grant money for that, and it was more or less rejected. It just doesn't even meet cost-benefit analysis requirements for the grant. So someday we'll have to talk about that. The West Union Street Bridge, again, we're not even gonna really cover those. Those are related to the road plan. The Henry Bridge wing wall, you saw the photographs of that, so we have that shown in 2012.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can I interrupt for a second?
absolutely.
You got a question,
If
too.
the Union Street Bridge repair is related to the road plan, does that number not need to be reflected at all in the CIP, or is that eventually gonna show up in the road plan
No,
for
that-
2014, or how does that work?
The bridges are separate projects because we get 80% of the money for bridges from state grant. So those aren't typically taken out of the road plan, they're separately funded. We fund 20% and the state funds 80%. The wing walls are a totally separate project, and those are not eligible for reimbursement. Those are considered a maintenance item that DOT will not fund. So that's something we have to pay for. So that it's not really related to the road plan, those wing walls.
Thank you.
Hank?
That's it.
Carl, can you clear up something for me? On road reclamation, we had $440,000 for Worthley Hill, and then we also had $440,000 for Worthley Hill drainage on the special. Is that in the road reclamation, or is it gonna be separate? Looks like it's in two places.
It is in two places.
Yeah, why?
Is it the same project? That's what I think.
It is the same project, and I guess it's our hope that it gets funded as a separate project, but we also know what the budget outlook for next year is, so. As we made our plans, we kinda planned on it being part of the road plan money. It'd be nice if we got separate funding for it, though.
You're just looking for 440, Carol, not 880.
Right. Right.
Any more discussion on this item? Okay.
What are we up to?
There's a street bridge
Pleasant Street.
Pleasant Street and Bog Road, you can skip right over, those are, well, let me just mention this.
Pleasant Street's a little farther up on the matrix than Bog is, Carl.
Yeah, and that is a very ambitious schedule, because what happens with bridge replacements, we need to send DOT a letter of intent, and they need to come out and evaluate the bridges. They will give us, at that point in time, a budget estimate for the replacement costs of those bridges. And then it has to be incorporated into the state's 10-year plan. So it's kind of this process, so if we can actually pull that off for 2012, that's gonna be a miracle, but that's when Pleasant Street's in the matrix to get done, so we're gonna see what we can do. But in both of those cases, we're gonna be going after, state grant money, and we have to work with DOT to establish the scope and whether the bridges need to be completely replaced or repaired, or what needs to happen to them.
Just for discussion, Carl, the Bog Road Bridge replacement, there's two bridges on Bog Road. Which one is it, the lower one or the upper one? Well, both of them. Okay.
Same with Pleasant Street, we're assuming both would need to be replaced, and they may not. You know, we may find, in those bridges on Pleasant Street, the bridge structures themselves aren't bad, but after the fact, the town added the sidewalk on the side, and the sidewalk portion is in rough. We have trouble with them every single year, so we may be able to just add on or repair, but
I'll
we'll
tell you,
have to
those
do
two
something.
walls are very strong.
Yeah, yes. Why, have you hit one of those too?
No, everybody else has.
Yeah, everybody else has.
So you're saying maybe you would consider putting the sidewalks on the exterior of the wing walls or something like that, he's saying?
Well, they already are.
I mean, outboard, they are
Yeah,
outboard.
they are outboard, and
Yeah,
that system for the sidewalks really needs to be redone somehow, so. That again is that whole DOT, we'll work with them on the scope of that, and what they think is best.
You don't probably have to talk about the Mast Road sidewalk.
Please, no.
Talked about that ad nauseum.
The next one is the Pleasant Street, Mast Road, and the Elm High Main Street intersections. This is, has been in your matrix, but it used to be that Pleasant Street and Wallace Road were linked together. This year, the selectmen decided to do Wallace Road, and Pleasant Street, we applied for a CMAQ grant, and we incorporated the High Street, Elm Street, Main Street intersection into the CMAQ grant as well, because it was a higher priority intersection. So we're trying to get our problem intersections all taken care of as quickly as we can. So I think we're in for 50% grant funding on the CMAQ grant, if we're successful getting it, and that's moving through the process right now. As a matter of fact, we just, I think yesterday, got some questions from, on our air quality analysis that we need to respond to. So we're working through that grant process. If we get the grant money, 50% of the funding will come from the state for those projects. And we have off-site improvement money into that Pleasant Street intersection as well. So I tried to detail out all the net effects on the project worksheet.
Thank you.
Well, you have a layout of that, don't you, down at the,
Yeah, and what I included as backup on the worksheet is, these are pages from the actual grant application, and there is a draft layout or a rough layout.
because I saw it once and Marie threw it away. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of my house if I wanna go downtown without going up Prospect Street.
Yeah, come down, we'll look at it.
Okay.
So, in other words, Pleasant Mast area is gonna be another roundabout,
Yes.
but Elm High is not.
Right. And these come from the village planning committee report. You can see the plan for what we're doing on High Street, is trying to make it more pedestrian friendly, trying to make it more, more traffic controlled, more defined paths. So we're putting splitter islands and closing up curbing.
Well, what, you know,
Earl, if I could just,
This is the old man's road.
when that intersection was examined, there was an attempt to see if a roundabout could be designed there. And the only thing they could come up with was either a double roundabout, or because of the distance spread between all of the intersecting streets, it was not possible to put a roundabout without having it huge, taking away the library
Yeah.
across the other street.
Or the common.
Or the common, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it had, and the common didn't work because it was really the church. The church is what paid the price, St. Matthew's.
But there was an attempt to examine and put a roundabout there,
And
see if it was feasible.
The same with, when we tried to put lights in years ago. We had to take the library to Common, and half of Sully's.
My one concern, Carl, and I'm not even sure that it is a valid concern, but when the intersection was redone a number of years ago, and they put the bump outs in, my own feeling was it looked wonderful on paper. And then you drove it a few times, and particularly when I'm coming home from Concord and I'm coming down High Street, with the stop sign at the popcorn stand, and then continuing on to Main Street. With those bump outs on the right in front of the chiropractor's office and the Tomato and so on, if anybody's moving too fast, you have absolutely nowhere to bail out. And I mean, I've, you know, a few times that's happened, all of a sudden somebody comes out of nowhere. You go, what do I do now? Because there's nowhere to go with those bump outs.
And quite honestly, that's the purpose of those bump outs, because when you provide the place to go, that also provides people passing on the right.
Yeah.
So that is the trade-off. That is the trade-off.
We're stuck with it, Earl, so just live with it.
I
come down that,
I
I
have.
come down that road every day. And if it's a certain time of the day, I take an alternate route. I don't deal with it.
I mean, there have been times
I don't
when
think that intersection is repairable, I'll tell you the
I
truth.
think you're right, Tony. There's times that I wind up taking the right turn and going over to Clinton Street and down Church.
I always do.
Well, you have heard the proposal for the underground about, haven't you? I mean, that was.
Well,
It's probably-
is that
I
the
like
elevated
I
road
like
we're
the
gonna
bridge
do?
better.
I don't wanna, I'm not asking. Not going there.
This is not a public session on the repairs. So let's move on.
Will there be public, I didn't say that.
The next item is a brand-new item on your matrix. As you all know, the town purchased the property adjacent to the transfer station property, which is full of very, very nice sand and gravel. So what we are proposing is a screening plant so that we can begin to process that material. It'd be a great winter project for us to do, to have our own processing ability. It would save us having to contract it out every time we need material out of there. So this is a new material, or a new request for aggregate screening equipment.
Carl, is that going to, I think what you said is, just now, that is going to, in the long run, save the town money, because you're gonna have your own material that you're gonna not have to purchase on the open market,
Right.
and you'll be able to process it.
Correct.
On an average year now, what do you spend for aggregate and fill?
Well, on an average year, you know, I can tell you that it was not enough to completely pay for that property. You know, it was, with the selectmen, we looked at that, and the way we do things now, where we contract out jobs, the people that are most successful getting those jobs are folks that have their own sources of aggregate, and that's how they make up the pricing to get the jobs. So unless we kind of force, like we did on the landfill project, where we forced the contractor to use our source of material, it'll take a long time to recoup the money. So I would have to go back and research exactly how much we use, but it's not like, oh, if we do this, we pay for everything in the first year.
No, I don't, you know, I mean, are we looking at 5 years, 10 years?
That's what I'm looking for.
You know, the rest of our natural lives?
Yeah, well, we
Wait a
could,
minute now.
we could put together a return on investment for this.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll have to do later in the processing.
Okay, that's fine.
Going the same way Earl did, we went through the other lot pretty fast.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
the
Well, it was a
landfill
different-
sucked it
different
right up.
situation.
But this one will be longer, so what would be the payback on this machine?
That's what we'll figure
Yeah.
that out. We'll figure that out. It's a, you know, what we're trying to do, what I hope we're gonna try to do is, come up with kind of a master plan for that property so that we're not just in there excavating at random. We're in there building something over the next several years. And as we excavate down, we're actually excavating areas with a purpose. So that's still a step that needs to happen, and I don't know exactly how that's gonna happen, but we're starting to talk about whether we're gonna put together a committee to look at the elements that will go into that property long-term, or how that plan gets developed. But it would be nice if we had a long-term plan, vision for that site, and we started working towards, over time, building to that vision.
Now, would this aggregate screening be for summer projects, winter use, or both?
Both.
Both.
There's a lot of sand for winter application. So it would be both,
And that's sand you currently purchase outright?
yes.
Okay.
What
Go
is
ahead, Hank.
this, what is this, a building, a machine, or?
It's a machine, it's a screen. Probably what we looked at is a shaker screen, you know, it's got a motor on it, and you
Okay.
just dump material in the top.
Trailer
It's-
mounted?
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be moved around.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the big white elephant,
The
pink
big white
elephant,
elephant.
whatever, pink elephant, whatever.
Yeah,
We'll go
that's
right by
been
that
floating
one.
along forever. The same with College Road sidewalk, that's out several years.
Catamount's another one.
Yeah, Catamounts out there. The sidewalk, hasn't really changed, but one thing I just do wanna tell you folks about is, this year, working with the Board of Selectmen, we have actually come up with a detailed sidewalk plan. We've looked at what we need to do for ADA compliance townwide, and we actually do have more of a detailed plan, which I attached to your project worksheet if you care to glance at it. What we found is, I think our budget is adequate to get this plan accomplished over the next 8 or 10 years. So unless we're, as a town, in a big rush to get it done quickly, we can just keep going the way we are and work towards the priorities that are established in this plan.
Carl, can any of these sidewalk projects, and I'm just looking at the Pinardville area, the Mast Road stuff. Can any of these be piggybacked on the drainage and sewer work, as long as that all the stuff's being dug up?
And some of it will, and some of it definitely will. So over time, and, you know, we try to do that if we're rebuilding a road anyway, we'll incorporate the sidewalk into the bigger plan, you know, the bigger picture. So a lot of those things, that's exactly what will happen to them, is they'll get incorporated in other work and get completed that way.
The sewer's going down the middle of the road there in the center of town, in Nashville, so it really wouldn't affect the sidewalks, other than service connections maybe.
Well, again, if they're ripping stuff, because sometimes if there are service connections that they've gotta rip up, you never know where that is gonna wind up in terms of the overall design scheme.
But Carl, this number that you show every year, the 71, 75 on through, you have been spending that money for sidewalk repairs and maintenance or reconstruction or something?
Right.
Okay.
The next one I have, pipe inspection equipment, again, that's kind of been floating along in there, and it's not next year, so unless anybody has a question, we'll right by it. Drainage projects is an ongoing thing that's been in here forever. I guess the only thing I'll point out, I pointed out last year, but it serves to point out again, you see 2012 is a pretty good jump. We're anticipating having to do more and more repairs as our NPDES permit requires us to do more in-pipe inspection of our drainage system. The asset management software is phase 2 of ViewWorks, which is, again, an out-year project.
Say phase 2?
Yeah.
Did you get phase 1 done already?
It's an ongoing thing, but yeah, we have all the software in place, and we're populating the data, you know, as we move along. And, the next one I have, which is I think the last one, is the replacement of trash barrels. I think that was supposed to start in 2010, it got slid last year, so it's just there, but, we really need to start thinking about more wholesale replacement. A lot of our barrels now are almost 20 years old, and they're warranted for 10 years, so they're really starting to show their age. So we show a 5-year plan to replace all the old green barrels that have been in the system since 1993, I think.
What happens to all the old ones? They get recycled?
Yeah, all the pieces get recycled back to the manufacturer.
How long has it been there, Carl?
93 is when,
No kidding.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
It's not more cost effective to just replace them as they are broken and
Well,
unusable, as opposed to replacing the whole fleet?
well, that's what we've been doing, and it is, an operating budget item, but it's getting to the point where it's getting so big, you know, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, that we started to consider this as a capital. You folks think it's better as an continuing just to deal with it in an operating budget situation, we can. But my feeling is that, you know, going out to bid and an organized plan is probably a better way to deal with it.
How many, again, round number, Carl, how many barrels are out there?
For trash barrels, around 5,000. Just over 5,000. Recycling is slightly more. There are some recycling stops that pick up trash.
And this would be for both green and blue, or just green?
Just green. The blue ones are fairly new.
They're what, $50 a barrel?
Yeah, when you buy them in bulk, 50, we're paying more than that.
Plus you,
Anybody have any other items they would like Carl to enlighten them on? If not, I thank you, Carl, for your time.
Thank you all.
Apparently now, Brian, could you try to squeeze the cemetery trustees in at some future meeting for us?
Bear the torch well.
We'll look at we'll look at our schedule, Earl.
yeah,
Does anybody, do you think there's any one of the three of these that is, I think maybe the first if they could, because the only big one is
Night.
PD.
hang
School
on.
district usually takes a whole night.
Now, admin takes very little time.
And Parks and Rec,
Parks and Rec takes very little time. So
PD is,
either, if we go to the 17th, library won't take long, but the schools probably will. So either the first, or we bring them in on the 15th for a callback.
yeah, well, you know, we've actually started using our callback as our first deliberative session
True.
to try to eliminate the third deliberative session if possible.
Yeah.
I would like to not necessarily rush through these to try to get out early. I would also like to spend more time on our priorities this year. I
And,
mean,
you know,
we kind of raced through the priorities in our last-ditch effort to finish, and I think maybe we should spend a little more time on our priorities, and because of the way the budget is.
I think the first is fine because, police really doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, vehicle replacement is vehicle replacement.
And I believe they have the radio.
They've got the
communications,
communication upgrade, but that's phase 2.
Right.
And there's not gonna be a whole lot we're gonna be able to do about that.
I believe we approved the roof repair last year, so that is underway, as I believe.
They've got a software proposal in here. And
So
they've
maybe the
got
first, Brian, you could try to get them to come in
cruiser
on the first.
I'll
replacement.
make that suggestion.
We have not heard from either of the water precincts, and I assume we're not going to.
Al said he spoke to you.
He did,
Okay.
but I have not heard that he wants to come in and say anything,
But there's nothing.
other than just to review their,
There's nothing going on, really, it's just the same old,
it's the same old, same old.
replace so many feet of pipe that we can afford, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And just so everybody, if anybody doesn't know, they're working on the Elm Street connector. They're working their way down to the Glen Lake School as we speak on a,
It should be done in about a week and, maybe 2 weeks at the most.
but there's at least another 2 sections, I would assume, that need to be done
Yeah.
on 2 more consecutive years to get
Yeah.
there. And just driving it, it looks like 2 more sections.
That's water.
That's the water department, village water precinct.
Yeah, first I think is fine, I mean, we should have no problem getting them in there,
If they are not available though,
then the
With this-
15th.
Either of the 2.
17th is.
You know, look at
I'd
this.
like them to be on one of our 2 meetings, either the 17th or the 1st. I don't want them to go into our deliberation if possible.
okay.
I'd like to be able to do that.
No, just fill it in. On number 4.
All right, does anybody else have anything?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn made by Earl, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes yes.
I voted to get out of here, yeah. I mean, Earl's nice to look at, but, you know, after a while.
Same to you, fella.